Now to some important breaking news. Brand new information just into CNN about that American drone forced out of the sky by a Russian fighter jet over the Black Sea. Let's get straight to CNN's Oren Lieberman at the Pentagon. Oren, what do we know?
John, we now have a far better sense of the steps the U.S. took to make sure there was no sensitive information on that drone that the Russians might be able to try to recover from the Black Sea. Yesterday, John Kirby, the strategic coordinator for the National Security Council, said the U.S. had taken steps to protect its equities but wouldn't go into further detail. We now know from two U.S. officials familiar with the incident that that step that was taken was erasing or wiping the software from the drone, the sensitive software that runs the drone and is in charge of collecting the intelligence, collecting the signals that the drone uses and then passes on to the U.S. upon its landing. Remotely, the operators of the drone were able to wipe the drone and erase that software such that it wouldn't fall into Russian hands or, frankly, other hands after the U.S. brought it down in the Black Sea. A senior Russian official said on Russian state TV that the Russians would try to recover the drone. It's not the aircraft itself, the hardware, if you will, that's the sensitive part. It is the software, and that's the step the U.S. went to protect by erasing it and wiping it remotely from the drone before it crashed into the Black Sea. The U.S. doesn't have naval assets or ships in the Black Sea that would be able to expeditiously carry out a recovery effort. So this, John, is now we know the step the U.S. took to make sure sensitive information, intelligence, didn't fall into the wrong hands.
Oren Lieberman live for us at the Pentagon with the breaking news. Oren, thank you. Let's get some insights now from retired Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton. Colonel, grateful to see you today. Let me just pop up some video of this drone as it plays out. Is this standard operating procedure? You have an asset like this in the sky, it comes under attack or some interference and the like. Is the operators, number one, trying to get it to safety, but number two, prepared to delete any sensitive information if you can?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the lessons we learned from a 2001 incident with the Chinese, when a manned P3 surveillance platform was actually downed by the Chinese. We didn't zeroize the equipment then. We didn't take care of the software. This was a lesson learned from that, and the way they did this was basically textbook. Now we zeroize these types of things, we erase the software, and we make it unusable.
Russia has drones as well. I mean, how are we that far more advanced from them that this would be proprietary and urgent to keep out of their hands?
It would still be urgent to keep out of their hands. They do have drones that are somewhat compatible to the MQ-9, but they're not as sophisticated as what the MQ-9 has.
And so now I just want to bring up the map by Admiral Kirby, who you know now at the White House, says we may not be able to recover it. They're going to try, may not be able to recover it. It happened somewhere over the Black Sea. We do not have exact location, correct, as to where it happened. You see the Russian border here. Walk me through the challenge of trying to get some military asset to recover the drone before the Russians find it.
So this drone was probably somewhere about here, where it crashed into the sea. So what this shows, of course, is this is Russian-occupied territory, Russian naval activity all throughout this area. Very hard for us to get there. Any of our allies, or the Romanians, don't have the capability. The Turks don't have the capability, nor do the Bulgarians. It would be almost impossible if you don't have naval assets in there right now to get the drone.
All right, the Russian ambassador to the United States was summoned to the State Department. He says, Russia doesn't like any U.S. aircraft near its borders. That's what he said. This is the Russian border over here. This is stolen property. Sorry, but that's stolen property. That is part of Ukraine that Russia stole way back in the Obama administration. Is it likely? Would it have been flying over here, close to Russia? Would the United States have reconnaissance? It's international water, by the way, so it could be there, right, legally?
Yes, legally, absolutely. And we've done that before. We were going across this whole area. But our area of interest right now is this because, number one, the war in Ukraine. Number two, the grain transshipments from Odessa that we need to make sure that Ukraine gets to continue to do those. And that's one of the reasons we're watching all of this.
Just very quickly before I let you go, we're focusing on the breaking news. They deleted the software. But the fact that a fighter jet would approach essentially an unarmed or very lightly armed drone, what does that tell you about Russia's mood at the moment?
Russia is very combative, John. And what they want to do is they have this very sophisticated